Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you're sitting down for this one.
Yeah, you might want to get comfortable.
Definitely. Maybe somewhere quiet, maybe you've got a cup of tea or, something a little stronger. Because tonight we are going to break your brain a little bit.
Just a little.
But in the best way possible, I promise.
It is definitely a night for the curious.
Yeah.
And perhaps the brave. Because where we are going today, standard logic doesn't really apply.
Exactly. We are settling in for a proper, relaxed, late-night conversation vibe today. And I want to set the scene for you before I even tell you what we're reading. I want you to imagine it's hot, like really hot.
Sticky, humid, midsummer heat.
Right. Specifically, let's dial in the date. It is August 22nd, 1968. You're in Elmira, New York.
It's late evening.
Late evening. And outside the window, it's raining. So you can hear that specific sound, the tires hissing on the wet pavement, the water dripping from the eaves. And downstairs, there's a whole party going on.
I love that detail so much. Life is just happening all around them.
Yeah, people are laughing, glasses are clinking, maybe some late 60s rock is playing on a turntable somewhere. It is chaotic. It's loud. It's very much of the world.
And yet, amidst all that earthly noise, the heat, the traffic, the party downstairs, something incredibly profound and precise is happening in a quiet room upstairs.
We're diving back into the Seth Material today. And specifically, for those following along at home, we are looking at session 430 of the early sessions, book 9 of the Seth Material.
Recorded on that exact humid night, August 22nd, 1968.
Right. And before we go any further, just a quick housekeeping note for our listeners. This deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
We're here to learn and explore.
Exactly. We're here to get our minds blown, not to sell you a subscription.
And this session is a perfect candidate for that mind-blown feeling. It features Jane Roberts, whom the entity Seth refers to as Rupert, and her husband, Robert Butts, who is referred to as Joseph.
And what's really interesting about the setup here is the vibe check that Seth does right at the beginning.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Because usually we think of channeled material as this very solemn, high church kind of thing. But here, Jane felt that the larger Seth entity was about to come through. Which sounds intense, like big Seth versus regular Seth.
Right. Jane senses this massive energy potential. But Robert, her husband, his reaction is something I find so incredibly relatable. He's basically like, honey, it's hot. There's a party downstairs. I am tired. Can we maybe just stick to the Seth we know? Let's not complicate things.
It's so domestic. It really illustrates the casual, almost strange normalcy of their relationship with this entity. I mean, they're dealing with interdimensional consciousness, but they're also just a married couple dealing with the humidity and fatigue.
Seth agrees, by the way. He comes through with his usual personality to avoid complicating matters. But, and this is the key point for tonight, even though it keeps the delivery familiar, he absolutely does not hold back on the content.
Not at all. He starts dropping bombs about time, identity, and apples.
The apple analogy. It's one of those famous and perplexing metaphors in the entire body of the Seth Material.
Yeah. Time is a worm in an apple. We are going to get to that later, and I promise you, by the time we are done, you will never look at a Granny Smith the same way again.
Never.
Our mission today is to really unpack Seth's radical views on time and reincarnation. We have to move away from our logical, linear thinking and take what Seth calls intuitional leaps.
So let's jump right in. We need to start with the concept of the self. This is where we get into the non-time reality and identity.
Okay, let's unpack this. Seth starts by attacking the very idea of identity. Now, usually, I think I know who I am. I'm me, you're you, we are separate. But Seth says the word identity itself is limited because we humans think of it as this one solid, indivisible unit.
Precisely. We view ourselves as a singular package contained within a body.
Right.
We think identity works like a container. I end at my skin. My thoughts are inside my skull.
Right.
But Seth argues that identity is not dependent on structure. He says, and I'm quoting the session here, psychic identity does not need to set up barriers in order to recognize selfhoods.
No barriers. That sounds messy. If I don't have barriers, don't I just sort of dissolve into the soup of the universe?
Not dissolve. Expand. It's an expansive concept. The twist here is that a single personality can be a portion of more than one entity and still retain its own individuality.
Wait, hold on. So I could be part of Team A and Team B in the spiritual sense and still be me?
In a way, yes. Think of it less like sports teams and more like consciousness networks. You know, in computing, a single node can be part of several different local networks simultaneously.
Yeah.
It has an identity as node A, but it functions in network 1 and network 2.
Okay, that helps. So I'm a node in a much larger system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seth is saying that our need to draw a circle around ourselves and say, this is all I am, is a limitation we created.
Mm.
And the biggest culprit for this limitation, the reason we draw that circle,
It's time, right?
it is our concept of time.
Because we see ourselves as a timeline. I was a baby, then I was a kid, now I'm an adult. A series of memories. Past, present, future. That's my story. That's who I am.
Exactly. We define ourselves by our history. Seth calls this a time misconception. He literally says it is your concept of time that highly limits your idea of individuality. We think a personality must have a series of memories that go from A to B.
But Seth says, nope.
Nope. He introduces the concept of simultaneous time.
This is the part that always gets me. The simultaneous now.
Seth claims that for personalities outside our physical system, they do not recall events in a serial form.
Serial meaning one after the other.
Right. They don't look back at a memory like looking at a photo album where you turn the pages one by one. Events are held simultaneously.
Okay, here is the big aha moment from the source material. Seth gives a specific example that really stops you in your tracks. He talks about reincarnation.
Yes, because usually we think of reincarnation as a ladder. You live in the 1800s, you die. Then you're born in the 1900s, you learn some lessons, you die. Then maybe the year 2000. It's a line. It's a climb.
Right. It's the progress of the soul. But Seth says, imagine an ego from the Civil War and an ego from the year 3000. He says they exist at the same time.
The various ego structures, therefore, exist simultaneously. That's the direct quote. The you living in the 19th century and the you living 1,000 years from now are happening right now.
So my great-great-grandson self isn't waiting to be born. He's already there.
And your past self isn't gone. They are both active. Think of it like a wheel. You are at the center of the wheel, and the spokes go out to 1860, 1968, 2024, 3000. The rim of the wheel touches the ground one point at a time.
And that's what we experience as time.
Exactly. But the whole wheel exists at once.
And here is the kicker. Seth says these egos are aware of each other.
Yes, they are.
But I'm not aware of them. I don't know what my year 3000 self is doing. Probably flying a spaceship or something. Or maybe living in a cave because we ruined everything. But I don't know it.
You aren't aware of it consciously because your physical brain focuses on this specific moment point to keep you sane.
To keep me sane.
Imagine if you had the memories of 5 different people living in 5 different centuries flooding your head while you were trying to merge onto the highway.
Okay, fair point. I'd absolutely crash.
Right. The brain is a filter. Seth says within the earthly cycle, such knowledge is not transmitted to the physical brain, but it is always known. Your inner self knows. The whole self knows.
It's like a web, not a ladder. Everything is connected across the surface, rather than climbing rungs.
That's a perfect analogy, and this has huge implications for things like mediumship or trying to contact the dead.
Oh, this was a fascinating part of this session. Seth basically explains why seances are so often disappointing or confusing.
It is the mediumship problem. When we try to contact a survival personality, someone who has passed on, we come with our baggage. We expect Grandma to remember her birthday in 1948.
Grandma, tell us the date of your wedding! And Grandma's like, what is a date?
Exactly. Seth points out that events don't exist in that way for them anymore. He says the associative processes determine not only which events have meaning, but also the order, in quotes.
So an event that was huge for us, like a specific year, might mean absolutely nothing to the personality now because they aren't using a calendar. They are dealing with intensity and association.
Right. If you ask a ghost, what happened in 1948, it's like asking a fish, how was your walk on the beach? The framework doesn't apply. For entities who never lived in our physical system, our time concept is totally alien. They experience moment points fully.
Moment points. I like that. It sounds like they dive into the feeling of a moment rather than the duration of it.
They experience the depth of the event, not the length.
Which segues perfectly into our next deep dive segment, physical reality as a mass creation.
This is where Seth really pulls back the curtain on the whole show.
He tells Jane and Robert that physical reality is highly artificial.
He doesn't mince words. He says it is the mass creation formed by your inner ideas.
We're all projecting this world together, like a massive multiplayer game where we render the graphics with our minds.
And in this model, what is the function of time? If reality is artificial, why did we invent time?
Seth says time is just a tool. We use it to materialize ideas so we can study the force behind them.
So time is like a slow motion replay.
In a sense, yeah. Imagine you have a complex emotion or an idea. In the spirit realm, that idea might occur instantly. Flash, it's done. But here, we slow it down into days, years, and lifetimes so we can walk around inside the idea, look at it, touch it, and understand it.
That makes a lot of sense. If everything happened at once, we wouldn't learn anything. It would just be a blinding white light. We need the sequence to process the lesson.
But once the lesson is learned, Seth says, when an idea no longer needs physical materialization, the concept of time becomes useless.
It's like taking the training wheels off or closing the textbook once you've passed the exam.
And what replaces time? Intensity of experience and value fulfillment.
I love that phrase, value fulfillment. It sounds so much better than getting older.
It suggests that the goal isn't to endure for 80 years. The goal is to fulfill the value of the experience, however long that takes. And here's the mind bender Seth drops in this section. He says, in your terms then, a future event would exist before a past event.
Whoa. Okay, let's chew on that for a second.
Yeah.
A future event exists before a past event.
My brain hurts. But in a good way, how does that even work?
Well, if time is organized by intensity and interest, not by the calendar, then a highly intense event in your future might be the anchor point that creates the past events leading up to it.
So the effect creates the cause.
In a simultaneous reality, causality is not a one-way street.
Let me try to put this in a real-world example for you listening. Say, I decide today to pick up a guitar. I suck at it, my fingers hurt, but I keep going. Seth would say, maybe I'm doing that because my future self is already a rock star.
Exactly. The rock star reality in the future is so intense, so full of energy and value, that it acts like a magnet. It pulls you toward it. It ripples backward in time and makes you buy the guitar today.
That is wild. It means our dreams aren't just fantasies. They might be memories of a future we haven't reached yet.
There's a very Scythian way to look at it. And speaking of specific examples, we have to talk about the guest in the room.
Yes, Emmeline. This brings us to the case study of Emmeline Fraser.
So just to orient everyone, Emmeline Fraser is an ESP student of Jane's. She is physically there in Elmira, sitting in the room, witnessing this session happen. And Seth decides to give her a reading, applying all these high-level theories to her actual existence.
And he identifies a specific archetype for her, the builder.
It's the thread connecting her simultaneous lives. In almost every instance Seth lists, she is involved with construction, arches, forms, and planning.
He lists them out. A life in Greece, before it was even called Greece. A life in 14th century Belgium.
Yeah.
And then the controversial one, the anachronism.
The anachronism. This is where the skeptical, logical Robert Butts chimes in. Seth mentions a life in a Spanish environment in South America in the 1200s.
And anyone who paid attention in history class knows Columbus didn't sail until 1492. The Spanish weren't in South America in the 1200s.
Robert Butts points this out in his notes. He's confused. Is Seth wrong? Is Jane's subconscious glitching?
But Seth doesn't back down.
Not really. He acknowledges the confusion but doubles down on the Spanish-era details. He insists on the atmosphere, the language, the gardens.
It's kind of funny. You can almost see Seth shrugging at the history books, like, I know what I see.
There are a few ways to interpret this. One, maybe it is a distortion in the mediumship. Jane is the translator, after all. Two, maybe history is wrong, though unlikely to that degree. Or three, and this fits the simultaneous time theory we just discussed, maybe the 1200s date is a time stamp of intensity or a bleed-through from a different probability.
Or maybe, since time isn't serial, the Spanish influence from a future century was bleeding into the 1200s reality of that personality.
Exactly. If the future can exist before the past, perhaps the culture was bleeding through time. But Seth also notes that this personality was male in 4 of these lives, usually an architect or planner.
And this leads to the concept of bleed-through. This is where it gets highly practical for us listeners. Seth looks at Emmeline's current life and points out how these past lives are showing up right now.
He points to her garden. Emmeline apparently has this elaborate, beautiful garden at her current home. Seth says the garden and grounds now about the personality's present home are replicas of gardens laid out by the same personality in the Spanish era.
She is rebuilding her past without even knowing it.
And her personality traits, too. She is impatient to have work executed by others. She loves the planning but wants someone else to lay the bricks. Seth says this is a direct carryover from her lives as a master builder or architect who drew the plans but didn't do the physical labor.
And there is that karmic twist, too. Seth mentions that in one life, Emmeline's sister was actually her father.
It reinforces that web of identity. We play different roles with the same group of souls. It's like a repertory theater company. Okay, this season, I'll be the dad, you be the daughter. Next season, we swap.
But the main takeaway for Emmeline, and really for you listening, is that we are acting out patterns established in other times right now.
You think you are just planting petunias, but actually, you are reenacting a Spanish courtyard from a life you are living simultaneously. It makes you wonder what our hobbies say about us.
It certainly invites introspection. Are you drawn to the ocean, to numbers, to medicine? These aren't random. They are likely threads in your larger tapestry.
Okay, we've arrived. The philosophy of the apple.
The apple. Seth gets a little sassy here. He critiques Robert Butts, and by extension, all of us, for trying to pigeonhole this material into neat little categories.
He says true organization is not logical. And then he drops this riddle. Time is an apple. Time is no apple. Time is a worm in an apple.
I love that. Time is a worm in an apple.
We really have to deconstruct this.
Yeah.
Because most people think of time as the worm.
Right. We are the worm. We start at the skin. We chew our way through the apple, moving forward, leaving a tunnel behind us. That tunnel is our past. The apple flesh in front of us is the future.
Exactly. We see the apple piecemeal, one bite at a time. But Seth says the apple is time, the whole fruit.
The apple is an event.
Yes. Think about an apple. It represents the sunlight, the rain, the soil, the months of growing on the tree. All of that time is condensed into this one object. The apple is the materialized time of the tree.
So when you hold the apple, you are holding the whole story at once. You aren't just holding a fruit, you are holding the spring blossoms and the summer rain.
Precisely. Reality forms the whole apple. We, with our limited senses, just experience it bite by bite and call that time passing. But the apple exists in its entirety, whether we are eating it or not.
That is genuinely beautiful, and it leads to Seth's definition of a human being.
He argues that an individual is not just their physical body, the 150 pounds, as he puts it. He says an individual is the 60 or 70-odd years of his earthly existence.
You are your time as much as you are your matter.
That is the key concept. Your body isn't just this flesh you see in the mirror. Your body is the entire snake of time, stretching from your birth to your death. You are a 70-year-long event.
We just see a cross-section of it at any given moment, like an MRI slice.
Exactly. Seth concludes by reminding us that there are no natural things, such as minutes or hours. We made those up. They are concepts imposed on reality. They aren't real in themselves.
So, if I'm late for work, I can just tell my boss, minutes aren't real. Seth said so.
You can try. But remember, Seth also said we created this camouflage reality to learn from it. So if you are late, you are missing the lesson of respecting the agreed-upon illusion.
Fair point. I guess I still have to set my alarm tomorrow.
Unfortunately, yes. The illusion is persistent.
Okay, let's bring this home. This has been a lot to take in. Non-time, the web of identity, the builder archetype, the apple. What does this all mean for you staring at the ceiling right now?
If we synthesize the chaos, identity is fluid. You are not trapped in your body or your history. You are vaster than that.
And time is simultaneous. Your past and future are happening right now, supporting you.
Reincarnation isn't a ladder you have to climb. It is a web you are weaving.
And reality is that apple, an intense, flavor-filled event that you are exploring.
I want to encourage everyone listening to not just take our word for it. Dig deeper. This material is dense, it is challenging, and it is endlessly rewarding.
Absolutely. We are barely scratching the surface of Session 430. You need to go to the source. Credit where credit is due. This is the Seth Material, published by the New Awareness Network.
And if you want to study the books, and you definitely should get the books, go to sethcenter.com/the early sessions. That is where the gold is.
Again, that's sethcenter.com/the early sessions. Support the preservation of this incredible material.
Before we sign off, I want to leave you with a thought. Seth said a future event can exist before a past event.
So ask yourself, what future memory is influencing your behavior right now?
Are you building a garden today? Because you already built it in a century. You haven't lived yet.
Yeah.
Are you drawn to a certain city because your future self is already walking its streets?
It is a fascinating question to sleep on. Are you the cause or are you the effect of your future?
It is certainly something to mull over.
Indeed. Good night, everyone. And watch out for the worms in the apple.
Good night.